Chad Wilson here, All Eyes DB Camp. What are we talking about in this video today? We're talking about cover two versus trips. So in previous videos, I've discussed cover two, and it was against a 2x2 set, nice and clean, real easy to run, but they don't always line up in 2x2, whether that be a tight end and a Z receiver on one side and a slot and another receiver on the other side. Sometimes offenses will line up in a trip set, and that causes a little bit of an adjustment and maybe some problems for those of us that want to run cover two. So the first example I'm going to show you here in this video is cover two versus a trip set when we're in a four-man front. Not my favorite thing to do, but it can be done. So here's a look at what happens in this case. So here we are in a two shell by two shell. That I mean two defensive backs, two safeties on the hash, okay? Two safeties high, two shell. That's what we mean by that. All right, so our safeties, and what are our depth? Let's talk about that really quick. I like to line my guys up at 12 yards if we're in high school. Obviously, we don't have a lot of 60, 70-yard arms, so I'd line the safeties up at 12. Sometimes at 15. You know, if you're playing at a higher level, college, pro, college or NFL or pro or something like that, perhaps those safeties are back deeper. It really is your preference. I will just say if you have them at 10 yards or below 12 yards, you're probably putting them at a disadvantage since their responsibility is going to be deep coverage in this particular coverage that we're running. So, two shell safeties at a minimum of 12 yards deep. When we've got our corners, what are they at? You can press the corners. In this particular example, I have them at 5 yards off. I prefer to have them, I prefer to see the wide receiver start and then have to stop again if you are really good at teaching your cornerbacks to get a jam when they're playing off in cover two. It does require some time and effort to get them comfortable with that technique. There is a prize though. If they're able to do it, it really is disturbing for the offense because again, the wide receiver's got to start, stop, and then regain momentum after he gets away from a jam from the cornerback. And it just helps us with the timing, getting a pass rush on the quarterback while he's sitting there waiting to see if indeed his wide receiver is going to be successful in getting off the jab. So in this particular case and this example, we're going to be talking about the cornerbacks at 5 yards off. So we'll just put a little 5 there, 5. Got these guys at 12, a minimum of 12. I don't even know if you'll be able to see that, but we're just putting that on there. 12 yards minimum deep for the safeties, and we've got the cornerbacks at 5 yards. All right, here's our issue, or here's what we could do in cover two versus this trip set. Normally, or at least in many of the defenses that I've played in and the defenses that I run, if I'm running a four-man front and they come out in trips and I had cover two called, there was going to be some kind of a check. Didn't really want to be in cover two when I had a four-man front, okay? I'm going to discuss the responsibilities with you here, and then also discuss why it was not probably the best thing for us to be in. However, your cornerback here, he's first of all got a reroute on this guy. It's going to be a bit of a soft reroute because right now, pre-snap, we've got 3 versus 2. So he can't get too involved in this reroute right here. Yes, you want the reroute. Okay, I'm not into free releases in a coverage like cover two. All right. However, it's not going to be as hard of an attempt at a jam in this cover two when we've got trips out here and it's 3 versus 2 pre-snap. Okay. Again, so he's trying to get his reroute on 1. After that, he's reading 2 and he's reading 3. And he's taking the first thing that comes out in the flat out of these two guys, out of 2 and 3. First thing in the flat out of these guys. Obviously, if there's no threat to him in the flat from either one of these guys, he's going to continue to get deep and not cover here. All right. What's my Sam doing? All right, and this Sam could be a nickelback, depending on the situation. So, or a dime back, however you guys want to do it. This can be replaced, this linebacker and this linebacker right here can be replaced with a defensive back if the situation calls for it. Let's say it's third down or the team's pass happy you can sub out those linebackers to get a more athletic defensive back that's used to coverage. So your Sam, who could also be a defensive back, would now, on the snap of the ball, once he gets his key from this lineman, you know, he sets back and it's pass, he can now move himself out into this curl area, all right? And he is now trying to get a reroute on two or anything that's trying to come up in this seam right here. We don't want a receiver getting a free release right up that seam, okay? Not exactly what we want. So we're gonna get this Sam out here to try and get a reroute. He's trying to push this guy outside, trying to reroute him outside. This cornerback is hopefully trying to get this guy inside. We got two routes together, and that's the essence of cover two, trying to jam those receivers into one small area and disturb the spacing. All right, so let me just rub this out real quick. We know what Sam's job is now. We know what the corner's job is. So now we've got this hook area right here. All right, pre-snap, that looks like an area of concern. If our Sam is going to the curl and our corner has flat responsibility, who's got that hook? Well, obviously, we're gonna have to have Mike run out here after he's gotten his keys from the offensive front, the offensive line, and it's passed. He's now gonna buzz himself out here to this hook area, and hopefully he can collision number 3 or 2 or anyone coming in there. Mikes, by the way, are pretty good with collisions, so we let them do their thing that they want to do. All right, so now what's happening on this backside? We're trying to get a reroute right here with our corner, okay? Trying to get a reroute on this guy. Hopefully getting it inside. If we're trying to stay in this cover 2, this is what we're doing, okay? We've not converted it to cover 3 or any other coverages. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get this reroute inside. Now this is that 2 receiver. After this corner has gotten this reroute, he's gonna be eyeballing this potential number 2 receiver. This number 2 receiver gets himself out here. This corner is going to carry this reroute with number 1 for a little while, and then he's gonna have to come out and come off on number 2, which would be this running back releasing if the ball is thrown to him. Here's what I say. If offenses want to throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage, God bless you. If we're in a zone, I'm not trying to have any of my personnel run back here behind the line of scrimmage to go defend a pass that's been thrown behind the line of scrimmage if we're in a zone, okay? If we're in man, different story. Zone, please throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage. We invite you as an offense to do that because our guys are going to rally to that and go make a play. So if you want to start your play behind the line of scrimmage, we say go ahead. So corner's carrying this. Going to be careful not to get too deep if this running back is working his way out here. But again, he's not going to come all the way off and try to defend a pass that's behind the line of scrimmage. He will come and rally, though, if the ball is released from the quarterback to this running back heading out wide. So what do we do with Will? Okay, you would love to have someone run the middle, right? We'd definitely love to have that happen. But this running back being out here causes a little bit of a problem. And that's why I don't really care for staying in cover 2 versus trips when I have a 4-man front. Right after this, I'm going to talk about how we handle that situation when we have a 3-man front, because it gives us a lot more options because we've got 7 guys standing up now as opposed to only 6 guys. So here are your options with your Will backer, who again can be a defensive back. You can have him run that middle to protect you against any of these guys entering into the middle. And well, you know what? Before we even get there, let's talk about what the safeties are doing, because that will help us. All right. So your free safeties, getting depth on the hash, on the snap of the ball, getting depth on the hash. Don't really want you coming out there slow. It's not cover 4. You've got deep coverage. I want you to be deep. Let's pedal. Let's get back on that hash, and let's try and keep the routes in front of us. Trying to keep the routes underneath here in front of us. We're not trying to have this wide receiver get here and be even with you because you were slow in your pedal. We're not trying to have one of these routes on this trip side get even with you in no time flat. So now the quarterback, you have to open your shoulders, and the quarterback can just throw the ball, and that wide receiver is going to outrun you to the ball. So you're trying to keep the routes in front of you. So that's the deal. You're 12 yards deep at a minimum, and you're getting depth on the hash, keeping the routes in front of you where your peripheral vision can have you see and feel the routes coming on you. That's how you're able to make plays and break on the ball and so on and so forth. Where are my guys' eyes? I like to have them look at the quarterback. In certain cases, I may have the safeties after they have keyed the snap. Perhaps they look at some of the routes and take their keys from there. That's a little bit more advanced, maybe something I'll talk about in a later video. Just keeping things simple and basic. Safety, free safety, you guys are getting depth on the hash, and we're keying the quarterback and making our moves off of the quarterback in this particular case. All right, so we've got these guys deep. If we are going to send this Will backer to the middle, again, it causes a problem for us here a little bit because this window starts to get a little deeper in case this receiver comes in here, and our cornerback is really left defending two guys against one. If you do send your Will backer to the middle, if that's what you're looking to do, then your Mike does not have to be as tough on getting a collision there and stopping the routes from coming inside because you have a guy here. So if the number 3 wide receiver were to come and get himself in here, you're all right. You've got a Will backer there. All right. So if you're doing that, then the Mike backer doesn't have to be so aggressive in getting his reroutes. Okay. So that's one way you can play it. The other way you can play it is this Will backer is going to be a hook player in this particular case. All right. So as this wide receiver expands, he will move into this hook area. And what he can do from there is if this wide receiver's route ends up in this area, then your Will backer is there. He's there to take care of that. And now your cornerback is available to come off on this running back that's expanding and can possibly attack the flat on this weak side. What you do tell your Will backer is this: once you expand, if you get this wide receiver coming into this hook zone, you're going to have to kind of own him from there. So you can't just stand here and then let the wide receiver continue into this void right here in the middle of the field and be an easy target for completion by the quarterback. So if he picks him up here, collision him, and then you kind of move with him to the middle of the field. If he continues on beyond that, then your Will backer is going to have to have the discipline to allow him to turn him loose and allow him to go into the coverage that you have here on the strong side. Okay, so this would be a method I would more prefer in this particular case, but we also got to go back over to the strong side and understand this. Since our Will backer is not going to be dropping right away to the middle of the field, now our Mike backer has to be a little bit stronger on his jams. He cannot so easily let this number 3 receiver get here into the middle because there's a void there. We may not have a defender there at all. Same thing if, let's say we got a flat route by number 3 and 2 decided he wanted to try and enter into the middle of the field. Mike backer's got to be there. It's got to be stout, and he's got to be ready to get a jam on this guy and really be hard against preventing any one of these receivers, 1, 2, or 3, getting into that middle of the field, because again, we've got no one there, and it could end up being a really easy completion. It could stress out our 2 safeties who now got to come up and make an open field tackle on a very good athlete in most cases. But by and large, this is what cover 2 is going to look like versus a trip set. Again, you could see the holes that would exist there, but again, if you're getting yourself a pretty good pass rush by these guys right here, which is the advantages of being able to rush 4. If you've got 4 guys here that could put some pressure on the quarterback and he doesn't have so much time maybe to go through all of his progressions and find the possible hole in his defense, then it works out for you. And so what I would say to you, if you're a defensive coach, you're a defensive coordinator, you got to really look at your personnel. Can you get a serious rush out of these 4 guys? Then maybe you run this and you kind of play around with what you allow to happen here in these areas right here. You can play around with what you want to do at will. You drop him to the middle, or you could drop him to the hook. You could do those type of things, all right? If you don't have so much of a good rush, the next part of this video is going to show you what you can do now when you switch to a 3-man front. All right, so now let's take a look at this same offensive formation, which is trips, but now we're in a 3-4 defense, and you're going to see some of the advantages we have now in terms of coverage in a 3-4 set, trying to stay in cover 2 versus trips formation. by the offense. All right, so here we go. We've got our trips set up. Okay, 3 receivers to the right. That's our trips. We've got the back to the opposite side because that probably puts the most pressure on our defense. And he's on the weak side here with our X wide receiver. All right, so let's again go through some of the responsibilities. Again, as we talked about in the 4-3, your cornerback is out here. In this particular case, I'm going to have him at 5 yards off. All right, safety is going to be minimum 12 yards deep on the hashes, and this corner, like the corner on the strong side, is going to be 5 yards off. Okay, so as we spoke about in the 4-3 defense, we are trying to get a jam on one with this cornerback. Again, don't go crazy trying to get that reroute, okay? Because again, pre-snap, it's 3 versus 2. I would love to get that reroute, but don't go crazy trying to get it, all right? So, reroute, and then you have flat responsibility as you read the number 3 and number 2 wide receiver, okay? Either one of these guys come out to the flat, you're gonna pick that receiver up, okay? If nothing comes out, if 1 goes up, 2 goes up, 3 goes up, or any of these guys disappear and you get no threat by 2 or 3 to the flat, then cornerback, you can now fall off in your coverage and help out deep, okay? All right, I didn't talk about this, or neglected to talk about this when we're talking about the 4-3 defense. This is the same in the 4-3 as it is in the 3-4. As with any cover 2, if you get a hitch route, by 1, cornerbacks, it's not man-to-man, you're not staying on that hitch. You're gonna give a China call, all right, China, all right, and you're gonna communicate that rather loud. That allows your Sam backer to get himself out there. You're gonna give a China call, and then you're gonna fall back, cornerback, waiting for the inevitable corner route by either 2 or 3. So I just wanted to insert that there because I neglected to talk about that in the previous example with a 4-3 defense. That is the same in 4-3 as it is in 3-4. You get a hitch route by 1, you're going to yell China, and you're going to fall off waiting for the corner route that's coming behind you, okay? All right, Sam. Situation is the same for Sam. And again, this Sam backer could be a defensive back. You could take him out in a passing situation and insert yourself a defensive back to play that Sam position, okay? Sam is going to work his way out after he's gotten his key on the offensive lineman that it's pass. He sees a high hat or a kickback. He's going to get out into this curl area, and he's looking to reroute either 2 or 3, anyone trying to come up out in that seam, okay? You're not going to chase any routes to the flat because you have a corner there. The only time you're going to the flat, Sam backer, is if you get this China call from that cornerback. If you get that China call from the cornerback's going to come off on your man now, all right? Let's say we got a hitch by 1. Most likely we're going to get something like this from 2. So the cornerback, once he yells China, is going to come off and get that corner out. When you hear China, Sam backer, you're now going to move yourself out into this flat to go take that hitch route. Seen a lot of interceptions from that, by the way, as a quarterback sometimes doesn't realize or even see that backer is heading out to that hitch route that's coming out there by 1. So we must communicate, must get that call. Otherwise, Sam, you're in here getting your collision, and then you're hanging here in the curl for any threats that may be coming there. If no threats come, if all 3 release deep, then you, again, try to sink back in coverage and help the safety out. What's the safety doing on this side? Same as he does in the 4-3. 12 yards deep minimum, and you're getting depth on the hash, trying to keep the routes in front of you. We don't want the routes getting to into your blind spots too fast, okay? Get on your pedal, keep the routes in front of you, and now you can make more effective breaks once the ball is thrown. Again, eyes on quarterback. We're keeping it simple. There are some cases in which you would key the routes after the ball is snapped. We're not talking about that here. We're keeping this thing simple. So, strong safety, getting depth on the hash once the ball is snapped. Cornerback, situation is the same for you here on this weak side as it is in the 4-3. Get yourself a reroute. Hopefully we're getting this guy inside. We want to reroute him inside into our help and our coverage right here. So you're gonna, in this 3-4 though, you can be pretty aggressive on that number 1 guy, weak side, on this X receiver. Can be very aggressive in this reroute, kind of beat this guy up, because as I show you, you're going to have more help in this 3-4 than you did in the 4-3. So get a reroute. After you get your hands on one, let's key on what's happening here with this number 2 guy. Is he coming out on some kind of a swing? Is he coming out trying to get out here in the flat? In the event that he does that, cornerback, that's going to be your guy, because you have flat responsibility. Again, you would carry this reroute on one for a little while as you key this number 2 receiver in the backfield. Since he is so deep, you've got a little more time. You can carry and beat up on one for a little while and then see what 2 is doing. Now, here are the advantages. Oh, again, let's talk about free safety. Pretty simple for you. You're minimum 12 yards deep. You're getting depth on the hash, and you're trying to stay over the top of this route, this potential deep route by this number 1 wide receiver, okay? Or anything coming across the field. Get depth on the hash. Here's the advantages for us in the 3-4. So now we're not rushing 4 guys. We took one guy off that rush and we put him and we stood him up. That's what happens when you have a 3-4 defense. So this extra guy is going to give us a ton of help, all right? So what we're doing here with this guy is similar to what we're doing with Sam. He's hanging right here in this curl area, and he is looking for anything coming inside. That could be this number 1 receiver trying to come in here on a curl or dig or anything, bringing him on the inside. Okay, he's sitting here waiting for that, and then he's going to be tough on any route coming inside. Get hands on him, harass him, reroute him, and he can even carry him some into this hook area as well. Curl hook area is what that nickelback's going to be responsible for. It could be the 1 receiver coming in that area. It could also be this guy coming in here. So nickelback, corner kind of got to talk to each other and communicate the routes that are coming. But a nickelback, you're in this curl hook area, okay? So running this back, our corner, if he's getting a reroute on 1 and he sees number 2 going in here or coming in this area, he has no more threat to him out here in the flat. So your cornerback, after the reroute, can kind of carry 1 a little deeper. Stay underneath it, make the quarterback have to put some air on that ball if he decides he wants to throw to 1, and then now that gives our free safety on that side of the field a chance to get over there and make a play on it. Or if it's underthrown cornerback, you're right there underneath the route, you can get yourself a pretty easy interception. So cornerback and nickel are going to work hand in hand, inside outside, on whatever route combination they're getting from the weak side wide receiver and the back that's set to that side. Okay, so that's the situation there. Our nickel back is in this curl hook area. So now, what does that allow us to do with these guys? Now, Will Backer is not responsible. He doesn't have to worry about this back. That's being taken care of the nickel. He doesn't have to worry about the hook curl area. That's being taken care of by the nickel. So that now frees our Will Backer up to go run this middle and protect us against any of these routes on the strong side coming into this voided area in the defense, or anything by X or even F coming hard into this post area where we could have a void in the defense. This Will Backer is going to fill this void by running that middle. All right, so now what can we do with this Mike Backer? Mike Backer, your responsibilities are the same. Your responsibilities are the same as they are in 4-3. After you've keyed the movement by the offensive line, you've got a pretty good read on it being passed. You're going to move to this hook area. You're going to move to this hook area to pick up any routes coming into that area. All right, anything trying to be thrown quick in this area, you're right there, Mike Backer, to hook it up and get involved in the play. Or if you've got any routes trying to scream in here, you can go and get yourself a jam on any one of these guys if they happen to be coming into this area. Again, since you have your Will Backer running the middle, you don't have to go overboard in trying to get that jam. Yes, we would love to get the jam, but you don't have to go crazy, because in the event that you don't get the jam, there is a Will Backer running there. If you feel like being a little creative, we could talk about doing this. If you trust your guys, all right, and you're a little bit concerned perhaps that 3-man rush is not going to be enough for you, all right, you're not going to get enough pressure on that guy, you can kind of do some things with your Mike and your Sam, okay, and your corner as well, Okay, so let's talk about a little variation that we can do right here with these guys if what I just laid out for you is not the best scenario. Okay, since we've got 2 over 3, we actually have a third guy over the top. So between Sam and this corner, you can kind of play these zones right through here. Sam can hang in the hook area a little bit more, okay? Hang in the hook and then get 1/2 of the curl area so he doesn't buzz out there right now. He doesn't open himself up to a quick throw right here by number 3. So what your Sam can do is kind of read 3 and 2 and see if anyone's trying to get into this area right now. If they are right now, he sits right here in this hook and he gets ready to defend anything going in that hook right now and also get a jam on it. Your corner can slide in here. Now he's not so much worried about this jam on 1. He's going to make sure that 1 goes outside. If 1 goes outside right now, safety's going to have to move himself off the hash a little bit, but that's a longer throw for that quarterback. And if you don't feel like that quarterback can make that whole throw, then you're okay doing something like this right here. Because what your corner is going to play is this curl area and then little 1/2 of the flat. So he's kind of in that flat. He's discouraging any kind of a quick hitch throw out here by this quarterback or anything coming out quickly by 2 or 3 into that flat. His presence right there kind of discourages that throw, and he just kind of lets 1 go up right here. If you can get a little shove or hand on him, fine, but you're not going overboard because you're set inside of him. It kind of looks like man, and you're playing 1/2 of that flat, and you're in that curl. So between you and the Sam, you're sharing this curl area, all right? And Sam has that hook, and then this furthest area away from the quarterback where he needs an arm, and he has to have a little courage to make that throw, you're kind of hanging in there. You're not in that area hard. So now what does that allow me to do with the mic? I can do a couple of things with my mic. My mic can sit right here and take care of any crossers. If you're facing a team that has a lot of crossers that likes to throw the ball in there and they like to rub routes in there, your mic can sit in there and rob those. Or your mic can sit in here and spy versus a quarterback that is very elusive. All right, so you can tell these guys, you know, you can turn your lineman loose. You don't necessarily have to stay in some kind of rush lanes. Just beat the guy in front of you. And if the quarterback decides he wants to flush himself out and start running, then your mic is right there to go spy the guy and make sure it's not a big play. Or you can just come in and blitz this guy. All right, if you have a guy that's not very shifty as a quarterback, you could come in and you could pick one of these gaps up here that you can run a blitz on and put a little more pressure on them and let these guys handle it. In this case, it ends up being a 4-3 defense again, but there's a little more deception in the fact that you didn't show a 4-3 prior to the snap, but you ended up bringing 4 anyway. So just a little bit of flexibility here with the 3-4 that allows you to do that. That's what happens in the 3-4. Now we've got 7 guys standing up and we've got more moving parts in the back. This, in my opinion, ends up being a better way to go when teams are trying to spread you out and use 4 and 5 wide receivers. If you can get a decent rush out of these guys, then you can go ahead and line up 3 and play around. You have a little more flexibility on what you can do with these guys in your underneath coverages. All right, that's cover 3 versus trips in both 4-3 defense and a 3-4 defense. If you like this video, I'd appreciate you, first of all, liking it, and then also subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll be notified whenever I have any other defensive type drills for defensive backs put up, when I talk strategy, anything on coverages, anything's on college recruiting, you'll be notified. So again, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube, and feel free to drop a comment on this, and I'll answer any questions that you may have about this video. Thanks for watching. All Eyes DB Camp. Consistency breeds results.